Helps to put me on stage, doesn't it? Hello, my name is Angela, middle initial K, last name Durden, and this is Punctuation is Power. We've done parts 1, 2, and 3, and we're now on part 4, Finding Your Style. Free your mind, and readers will follow. Ernest Hemingway wrote a novel you may have heard of called The Old Man and the Sea. It is described as a brilliant short novel. But before editors got hold of it, it was neither brilliant nor short. In fact, it meandered here and there. What a mess. It took an editor to find the story and chop out the crap, after which Ernest could finish it to become the brilliant short novel we all know and love. Part 3 of my series ended with the recommendation of getting an editor who was not in love with a particular style manual and forcing your story into a predetermined mold that may not fit. Hemingway was well served by just such editors. And this column that I had written is about finding a style and training readers to use it. Your style. Many new writers, not having a technique or approach of their own, attempt to copy the writing style of an author they love. In order to learn the foundational elements of storytelling, pacing, power, scene setting, and so forth, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like a musician practicing scales of chords and note patterns of famous works and then learning to vary those themes with his own flavor, a writer must do the same with words until that deeper understanding of interplay comes and it starts waking up in their mind. Delve into your heart of hearts and answer this question. Why do you write? For myself, that answer is because I can't not write. Words are my thing. My blood is made of words. And it has been since I've been able to talk. I say semper fidelis, always in the service of words. I must be faithful in the service of words. I can't misuse them unless I'm misusing something on purpose to accomplish something for a character or a point. You see the difference? Still, the question can lead to a huge list of follow-ups we don't have time to cover here. So, King Solomon said in Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 12, he said, "To the making of many books there is no end, and much devotion to them is wearisome to the flesh." Writing is a business that demands attention, and it can weary a soul. So, that being said, again, think about it. Why do you write? It's important to know your own reason. And the thing is that there's no right or wrong answer. It's you. Why are you writing? Why do you want to write? But if you find you're wanting to write in order to sell your work for a large anonymous crowd of readers, that is, you want to sell it in the retail marketplace and be in the business of book sales, well, you're going to want to bring the best version of your work to that arena and make it stand out from other books also vying for readers' attentions. A book may feel like a baby. It really does. I mean, I've had so many people say, "Oh, this is my baby. I can't change it." Look, it's a product. It's a product. It's for sale. Now, if you just want to write for your own soul and for your own personal journey, and maybe a friend can read it and go, "Oh my God, that's wonderful," and y'all can talk about it, that's perfectly fine. That's still a love of words. You're still getting to write. But if you're going to sell them to people that don't know you, it's a whole different thing. And now it's a business. So a book may feel like a baby, but it is a product if you're going into the retail marketplace. So how can you find your own voice and train a reader to like it, to understand it, and want more of it? Finding your own voice is a mysterious process. It cannot be taught, but it does happen. Training a reader is easy. Once you've found your voice, now you refine it on the page. Once you've got the story pretty close to finish, the hard work of checking the flow begins. Then and only then you will question the use of every punctuation mark you've put in it, as we've covered in earlier of this series. You may find a long run-on sentence that is convoluted and meanders down paths no one can find, yet each part seems important. You must now decide if it needs to be broken up into fragments and whole sentences of varying lengths, or something else entirely, or left as is. What weight does each one of the, you may have to take that long meandering sentence, break it apart. What I do is I copy it and I throw it into a blank document. This is the original, boom. Underneath it, I will write it as whole sentences, but shorter. And then underneath that, I will write it as fragments of sentences with a little bit of a whole sentence thrown in. Then I look at each of the ways it's presented and I ask myself, which carries the most emotional weight for this part of the story? Sometimes I got to think about it a good long time. Sometimes I'll print that page out, read it, lay it on the desk, come back to it 2 or 3 days later. And none of it makes sense. I don't like any of them. But by that time, my brain has had time to think about it. And as it's had time to think about it, it has come up with something even better. It's awesome. And then you ask yourself, were these fragments? Well, if I want to keep it as a long run-on sentence, do I use em dashes? Do I use semicolons? Can I use a colon? Only put a period at the very, very end and break up these other parts with em dashes or the semicolons or the colons, the commas. How am I going to break it up? And that becomes looking to see how it looks on the page. You know, if your eyes are crossing and you can't figure it out, then that's obviously not the right thing to do. But I continue to work on it. And usually by the second or third day, that has clarified so much that suddenly everything else around it has made more sense. And I have to make that even better. You see, it's a process. You know, people think of creativity as something that happens and out pops this brilliant, wonderful piece of ingenuity and oh, but you know, that's not how it works. How it works is you put a lot of work into something. You try this, you try the other, you try something else, you try all kinds of things, you change them up, you mix them up, you mash them together, you drink some whiskey or wine or coffee. And then you try again. And suddenly something pops, but it's because you've done your practice. It's because you've done your scales, if you will, as a musician does. They practice the scales, the interplay of words. They go from the 1 to the 3, the 1 to the 5, the 1 to 7, the flats, the sharps, the whatever, and they repeat these things over and they hear, well, how are these notes working together? How do they work together? Why is it going from here, from the 1 to the 3? And where do I start the 1? Do I start it on the A or the C or the F? Depends on the scale. Depends on the piece that they're working on. Depends on a lot of things. If it was just the making of notes, musicians could just toot and blow and bang and strum and kick and whatever it is else they would do, um, just willy-nilly. And out would pop wonderfulness. But that is not how it works at all. It's the same with writing words. If you have not ever just simply played around with words to see how the interchange of them, uh, reversing them in a sentence, swapping out this word for that one, if you've never done that, then you're not having any fun. You're not having any fun, and your reader is going to be bored too. You can use a thesaurus. Sometimes I use a thesaurus not because I want to find a different word, but because I'm looking at how to view my original word in a different way that might spark something. And sure enough, it often does. Sometimes I go, this is not even what I meant to say at all. I think I'm going to try a completely different word that has no meaning at all. Can't swap it out in a thesaurus. And it becomes better. Have some fun with this stuff, y'all. Don't punish yourself. Don't be like that teacher that gave you a D in writing because you messed up your commas and stuff. You're just writing. Enjoy it. You just enjoy it. But then, there's also alliterations. There's a poem in my poem book that is the entire poem is an alliteration. The first line starts, every word starts with A. Next, every word starts with B, all the way through Z, and then into A and B, I think C again. And it's the best version of apt alliterations, artful aid. Got that? Apt alliterations, artful aid. 4 A's. That's alliteration. Is there somehow you can work some alliterations into your sentences? People like alliterations. They may not be able to come up to you and say, oh, I like that alliteration. But your words are like notes of music. And if you bang on with the same one over and over and over and over and over and over and over again with nothing changing up the pitch, the pace, or the power, then also, there's cliches. There's some things that are just used over and over again. The word suddenly comes to mind. Hey, suddenly came to mind. People can pretty much tell when something suddenly happens. You don't have to tell them. And yet, how many times will people say, suddenly, something, and you do this, you go through the book looking for, you're noticing as an editor, I notice a certain word is used over and over. I'll go and I'll look at the use of that one word in every place. Is there a way to limit the use of that word and yet still get the point across? And so I'll ask for the author, what do they want to do? And usually what they say to me is, look, if you think it's overused, figure out a way to fix it. I do. It's just swapping out a word or taking it out. That's what editors do. Also, you might want to look for repetition. Sometimes we've copied a paragraph, we'll copy it and we'll paste it below and work on it, or we'll not realize that we copied and pasted it. Happens all the time. It's called technology. Sometimes people have done that with whole chapters, forgot that they moved a chapter from here down to here and didn't take this one out. How come this chapter's in here twice? Oh, damn, forgot I moved it. This is the fun stuff of writing. It's great. And I've done all of it. So this is not me going, oh, I know it all and I don't do it. But anyway, what you'll do is you'll have fun with this. And then this is you practicing your writing scales, to use a musical term. And you rework things until bingo, bango, bungo, you got some words worth keeping. That was an alliteration. Bingo, bango, bungo. See? You never know. So anyway, you keep doing that sort of thing, whatever it is, and enjoy it. Don't be in a rush. Um, Something magical will happen if you pay attention to your words. And what's going to happen is you'll be able to begin finding your voice. You're going to find maybe that you've been copying the style of your favorite author, whoever that may be. I cannot tell you how many times um, I'm reading a book by somebody. I'm looking at it for the purposes of editing, and I'll question why a particular style was used in this particular thing, or this phrase is used in that particular way. And it's absolutely hilarious. People say, well, my favorite author, fill in name here, does it all the time. So if it's good enough for him or her, it's good enough for you to like it. Really? You don't want to know why I'm asking? And then they like, oh, okay. And then I tell them. And when I tell them how it's not serving the character, and it definitely did not serve, I said, suddenly this other voice is inserted in here, and yet I had had your voice throughout. And suddenly this other voice was here. And if I, who didn't know that so-and-so was your favorite author, is questioning this, then a reader who may not think to question it, but still may have this nagging thought, something's not right. So don't be afraid to practice using words in all kinds of different ways. The progression of the words, the inverting the words, seeing all the different variety that you can do. And then once you've done that, you say, wow, which one did I like the best? Which one made my soul go, woo, that was good. You're on your way to finding your own voice, because your voice matters. If we needed more of your favorite author name inserted here, then we just go buy their book. We don't want to do that. And there'll come a time where you're writing your words and these things will come out and you're going, where did that come from? That is just, and other people read it and will go, man, that was good. Where did you think of that? I don't know. It just came to me. No, it didn't. If you've been practicing and your word scales, your word inversions, your sentence structure changing up, then your brain came up with it because it says, oh, here are lots of different choices. Hey, I wonder what would happen if I did it this way, because you're training your own brain. And what happens is as you start getting that voice of your own, readers, now granted, it may not follow the Chicago Manual of Style or the Associated Press Manual of Style or whatever other manual of style somebody has anointed to be as the one brought down from God on Mount Sinai. See what I mean? Once you start finding your voice now, you refine that voice with your punctuation. And oh my gosh, it's going to get so much better because punctuation, remember, punctuation serves words. Words do not serve punctuation. You understand? Punctuation marks are the workhorses that pull the story along. They make it look good. And they never take away the star power of your story. They're waiting in the wings, ready to shine the light right where it needs to be shined. Make the smoke happen. Make the thunder happen right when you need it to make your story look good. So you remember that. Now, that is part 4. Part 5 is going to be a little bit, it's going to be about are you in business or are you in hobby? Now, we kind of alluded to that earlier when we said, there's nothing wrong with writing just to feed your own soul. There are a lot of people that do that, and they have volumes of stuff, handwritten stuff, or they've got folders on their computer that totally, 100% is full of their writing that means something to them, and they're having a good time with it, and they don't want to publish it. That's a hobby. That's a hobby. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But if it's a business, it's going to be something else. So we're going to talk about that next in part 5.